This is a Q Media production.
I lost $10 million in a day. I'm completely screwed. I remember thinking, you know what? You could put me back out on the street, $50 in my wallet. I'll build this motherfucker back.
Simon Beard is a retail phenomenon.
Simon Beard.
Culture Kings captured the zeitgeist of youth.
$600 million exit. $600 million.
I honestly just didn't think I was cool enough. Drake, Shaq, Hezbollah. There was no product in there, but it was designed to plant the seed.
Are you helping me get to my destination or helping take pain away?
I know that journey is lonely, it's scary. People don't understand the pressure of entrepreneurship that aren't in it. We choose entrepreneurship for freedom. We can't go away on a holiday because it will fall apart. Marketing will blame merch. Oh, it's shit product, and it falls in the middle. Even as we got to 10 million, 50, I'm like, surely at 100 million it will release. It fucking doesn't. Your store staff is just the biggest unlock of content creators.
When we start a personal brand, you are at risk of looking like a general store if you don't define what my mission is. So today I wanted to chat a little bit about marketing and personal branding too, because it's interesting that you chose to even do it. Because, you know what I mean, you got the success. So why play in that area?
I suppose it was, I'd always seen, I actually went back on my goals in like 2017 when I saw Gary Vee, and I was like, oh, I really felt this value off his content, and I really thought I'd one day love to give that feeling to someone else where you give that value back, and especially because I feel I've learnt it. But I never felt I ever had the credibility enough. Like, you need real runs on the board success. And I suppose as we went through the deal and, you know, learned so much, IPO, listed, you got all my, you know, it was achieved my big goal. I had this written since a kid. By 40, I wanted $40 million. And it was sort of my $40 million outside the business, because I always thought if I had that, you know, passive income, you know, you never have to work, you get to do whatever you want to do as much as you want to do. That was always my dream and goal. And it was crazy as we lined up at the time. I did it a few years early and 10 times it, but it was this amazing feeling of this freedom. And then I felt like, as we went through IPO of Culture Kings, expanding in the US, but definitely it is a thing of once you do sell majority of your company, you are no longer an entrepreneur. And that was a tough thing for me. And I always had a goal as a kid of, I never wanted to work for anyone my whole life. And I was like, oh my God, I'm an employee. And it was even the thing of seeing my salary get dropped into my bank. It felt like, I don't know, it's this weird feeling like, oh, like you can't, like, I only want to get paid on results, not on anyway. I then stepped away from the day-to-day, and, you know, I still got my shares in the public company or whatever, but I really wanted to go, okay, what do I want to do next and how do I want to build? But when I really wrote down of what I love to do and what gave me the most joy and fulfillment, so much was like, I love branding, marketing, scaling, moving fast. Tani always says you can't get the carny out of me, you know, that original market salesman that I wanted. And I loved onboarding the team, selling them the vision, the dream, and teaching them stuff that I knew were super valuable skills, and seeing that moment, you know, when you're teaching them and it just clicks for them and you know they've got that skill, and then you see them use it, and this feeling of like, I know that foundational skill is gonna help them their whole life. I love that feeling because I was able to obtain those skills from people. I feel so good to be able to give them back. And so I wanted to work out this way where I can still get the joy and fulfillment of playing at a bigger level and scaling businesses, because I love all parts of businesses, but then how do I contribute and give back to up and coming entrepreneurs and help them in different ways, because I know that journey is lonely, it's scary, you know, people don't understand the pressure of entrepreneurship that aren't in it, this pressure on your neck. I say it never releases. Even as we got to 10 million, 50, I'm like, surely at 100 million it will release. It fucking doesn't, right? Only when I was able to get that money off the table, and this is a good part, like why I did that deal, 99.9% of my wealth in one asset. It's just stupid from a diversification point of view. Yeah. But once I was able to get that money off the table, not in the business, it's like, I felt that release. I always said this, I never slept better. And that first night, the 300 dropped in the account. And it was this feeling of that true freedom. As much as us as entrepreneurs, we choose entrepreneurship for freedom, but so much of it, we won't admit a lot about entrepreneurs, but the business, we can't go away on a holiday because it will fall apart. And that so much of it is, especially in that growth and early stage, you have to be doing it and driving it and making it happen and taking on all that risk and pressure, and to be able to do that. And that's why I want to help other entrepreneurs get to that point.
It explains a question that I think some people might ask about people who have had success and they've got more money than, because listen, if we just, so for someone listening right now, they're working their ass off in their business, like can skip to the rich part, and we skip to the rich part with you. Why do anything anymore? Why not just spend all the time with all the things that you yearn to be able to have time for when you're in the business, you can have time to do now. Now it's the other way around. It's like, you've just answered that question a bit, right? It's part of your blood.
Yes. And trust me, you can't pay me to go to any sort of thing or anything I don't want to do. I'm there for every breakfast with the kids. I'm there for every dinner. That freedom part now is amazing. We go on, I've got my whole goals, but two holidays a year with just Tani and I, 4 holidays with the kids, individual
awesome.
holidays with each kid. Like it's a bit where it's like, okay, almost I feel, got to dial it back a little bit, but you still have that other time there, and you need to work and keep growing, because this is the thing is that, and like it's not about just sitting on the beach. Like I love that progress. I love the game of business. I love thinking about it, understanding those little gaps in marketing, how to pull them off. It is so fun to me. And I always thought of this, even when I was at the markets. I remember when I was slogging out the markets so many times, I actually had more fun selling there. If my mates invited me, we're going wakeboarding on Jimmy's boat today or something, I'd be like, I don't know, I'd rather be at the markets. That was my fun.
Yeah, because I think that's really important, especially in Australia. We can tend to villainize one way or the other. One night is, I hate work because it takes me away from all the things I yearn to be, family and all that stuff. Then when someone gets the money, it's like, why do you have to work? You shouldn't be working. You can be there.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's play. That. It's not work.
It's play. Yeah. The cool thing about you, you can't. I can't buy Simon. Like, there's not much like if you that position of choice. If it's a hell yes or a hell no in a way, it's like I do things that excite me and that. It makes you really think about, because in my personal branding model, I had the thing called the 3 M's. It's called the man, the mission, and the message. So you've got to have a mission. Like all great people in history, like Martin Luther to flipping religious leaders like Jesus Christ, they had a mission, but they had a message that helped gather people together they live for. They articulated it really well. But then they use their own personal story to be able to create that believability and to be that vessel. And I think that's important. Like, you can't just be a person. If you're missing a mission, there's nothing to get out of bed for.
No.
Right? What is golf going to be the great mission of the...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But I was just thinking, man, like with... there's a stat with HubSpot just came out. 83% of... millennials don't trust. I'll say it again. So HubSpot came out with a stat with 83% of millennials don't trust ads that come from companies. So that's a big shift in marketing, right?
Yeah. It's definitely and that's where I've been as well of the personal brand. I suppose I was if I had Culture Kings again, I would definitely be way more front-facing and driving it. I suppose I wanted to do it. I was just scared. And I remember I tried a couple of goes to start it, posted the first thing, like my mum was the only one that liked it, and I got scared and deleted it and reneged on it, And I I'm sure some people out there that did that, but you have to just push through that phase and build that muscle. But it is the thing, and I'm across a lot of ad accounts now, a lot of spend, seeing what working, and it is crazy. Like founder-driven story ads where you can really get across your message and stuff is just so successful. And it is the thing, is that this is the window to do it now, because it could be 90% of the content you see on your feed will be AI generated. Right? So think about, you've got a window now to be able to get out and build that person in front. And yes, you can leverage all the AI, etc. in the future, but it's still got to come from this person and this level of trust.
Yeah, believability and trust. Yeah.
And that like a person, that all a brand is, we'd always use the term, it's earned in drips and it's lost in buckets. It's just a measure of trust. And that is so important, that you use like a person in linking to it. And we did this at Culture Kings. I didn't do it with myself. I honestly just didn't think I was cool enough. I thought the brand was way freaking cooler than me on that journey. But what we would do is we would leverage the biggest artists and rappers, and this is what we call our hype reel, which built our awareness. And I spent millions of dollars on this, which was anytime we'd have a rapper or artist or in-store, we'd get that organic footage of just them in the store shopping naturally, not like they're being paid to hold up anything. And then them just simply saying Culture Kings, and then clipping it, Drake, Shaq, Hezbollah, and just repeat it over. And it didn't show enough of the score, like shooting a basketball or this. There was no product in there, but it was designed to plant the seed. What is Culture Kings? And it was pull rather than push. And that was so valuable, because it would be always on this hype reel. And people tried to make me not turn it off, etc. And it would drive me nuts, because I'm like, we keep this on.
Yep.
This is the awareness. This is planting the seeds that they will come down the pipeline later.
Yeah, so I 100% agree. I think the rising tide is right here. It's peaking for personal brand. You got to jump on it. And do you know how you felt about, I just didn't feel like I was cool enough? That is 99% of people's problem. Yeah. I don't know my story. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And being on your journey, I like to pick your brain about it. You probably had to recall so much of your history to be able to use as your own material to be able to get in front of the camera, right?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, for me, it was so much the content of where it came from was those story and the journey of creating Culture Kings, and whether it was from stories, the fire and losing $10 million in a day to, all these big influencer deals like the Drake, etc., and how I got him in the store, and even right down to the technical details of, like I was just explaining, the hype reel and that, and the ad account and how it would all play together, how I would look at the daily P&L every day and be able to make decisions every day and understand. All this is... And this content that I'm creating now is for business owners. This is not to sell Culture King stuff, right? And I think that's a very important part, because my next journey, I'm like, I'm not doing this from a way. If I was doing this to sell Culture King stuff, it would be done totally different. I would be talking all about the product and how I designed the A-frame and why I did it and how this plays together and how this ties into sneaker culture. That would be done totally different. For me, my audience now is other business owners and founders that want to help and grow and scale their business. And my big future vision is I want to have my own private equity firm that grows and scales all these small, medium cap.
And that's the important distinction right there. When we start on a personal brand, you are at risk of looking like a general store if you don't define what my mission is.
Yes.
So who am I serving?
Exactly.
And you identify that straight away, because if you were Culture Kings, I'd expect to see Simon interviewing Drake on his podcast and getting alongside, using your personal brand to be alongside those people in your hype reel.
Yeah, and talking about their sneaker collection and what the hats and that's where it would be totally different to now, where mine is about the business and the business journey, marketing, and because this is what I'm passionate about. And I do think it's especially the clothing brand entrepreneurs out there, I think this was a thing, is that I love streetwear and I love sneaker culture and all this, but I loved business more. And that's where I see so much in that clothing game. They're the artists and they love the clothes, but they put the business part last. And yes, they can catch a wave and catch a trend, but you can just see them implode on themselves. And I always think, for me, you know, and this is why we always are about profitability and do it, is that I loved it, but I actually loved the business side of it more. And that's why this content comes across so much more than me going deeper onto the sneaker
the sneaker stuff that you're known for, and it got you a big break. Like, I think that's really key, man, because with personal branding, I think a lot of people, the barriers to it is, I don't think I'm cool enough. I don't think my story's got it any good. I don't know. I'm nervous on camera. I'm nervous what the risk it takes to be able to put yourself out there. Yeah, it's enormous, and it's cool to see you on the other side of it, because it makes sense that Nike uses athletes. It makes sense that Culture Kings mesh with the culture setters. Yeah, and now you're actually going out on that other side of the table, going, I've got to gather stories. I've got to craft them. I've got to make it aligned so it's valuable. And what's interesting about your brand as a diagnosis for me to see you is a lot of people are actually going, hey, Matt, have you heard Simon's stuff like the future's this, the future's that? And that's the powerful thing about personal brand, is you can be that source of information, that source of making the listener feel smarter than they tell their network. Yeah. It's all about the person. They're always thinking, what's in it for me? I'm benefiting from Simon's knowledge because he's making me more informed to implement my business or tell other people. Yeah. People forget that. That's what value is. It's like, are you helping me get to my destination or helping take pain away? And that's what you're doing.
And I really unpack that as the content that I really went through, what I listened to and I got the most value, but really understanding people in the game and their knowledge and their anticipation of the market was so valuable to me, because usually you would say, I didn't see it looking at from their side. And that, what I wanted to give it, for me, you know, this is one of the most important things in business is anticipation. You know, it's the big Tony Robbins thing. Leaders anticipate, losers react. And that you have to look at where the market's going. And I like being on social now and put a stake in it, and I'm calling it. That's where I'm enjoying it will go. And I'd love to have those, you know, Gary Vee has those ones where he goes back in time and shows it and, you know, say when you were right or wrong. And I love to get readjusted on stuff, like change my mind of, you know, different data or something comes out. You know, I'm definitely don't always get it right.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying the show. Just a quick one. If you're looking to grow a personal brand or use your marketing to drive traffic to your business, I want you to head to my website, mattpurcell.com/newsletter. It's a free resource that I give people every week with the latest tools, frameworks, and insights to help you grow your personal brand and your marketing to be able to grow your business. So many people are making the mistake of making project personal brand homes. They look all the same and there's no variation, there's no authenticity. Everyone is faking it to make it, and there are spruikers out there that are trying to trick people into their business and they haven't actually built anything compared to you. It pisses me off. I want to see people in my feed and other people's feeds of credible experts that have built something, that have actually got the solutions to people's problems. So head to my website, mattpurcell.com/newsletter, and get in for free today. One of the things I'm noticing with the personal branding topic is that I'm enjoying seeing brands actually start creating in-house personal brands. So, for example, at Boost, 680 stores worldwide, they're starting to incorporate they've got a girl named Zoe, and she's starting to be like, my job is to create new smoothies. I'm going to show you my black book how to do it. Yeah. That stuff is amazing. Yeah. It gets so good engagement, but it also introduces the personality. It's not relied on just founder stuff. So if you've got a really good weapon in your team, put them in front. You can use their ad accounts, or you could use them as well, because that whole thing of using ad accounts of influencers stuff, you have that risk of they could play against you
Yeah.
or shop around. But if you've got an employee you can do a deal with and start building those micro kind of excerpts.
And this was we'd been doing this at Culture Kings since 2015. So using store staff, you know, I haven't actually told anyone about this, but we had the biggest hack back in the day was Snapchat, and each store had their individual Snapchat page, you know, when Snapchat was absolutely ripping. And it was such a money driver, and that we had the KPI every day. The stores had to do so many Snapchat stories, do it, and they loved it because they'd get this fame and stuff out of it as well.
It gives that, we call it professional development.
Yeah.
But it gives them that opportunity to step up.
And definitely, I think for a lot of retail businesses, like your store staff is just the biggest unlock of content creators. And I was just helping one then. It's like, what are they saying to the customer in that's getting them to buy the product? What was the line? And then you need to create that into a bit of content. It's that simple. And all you need is a basic Rode mic and shoot the phone there and bomb it back. They can edit it in CapCut or, you know, shoot it through editors in Philippines and bang it straight back in the system. And you need to get that flywheel spinning of new and new content. And then looking at the data, looking at these key metrics in your ads, like your hook and your hold rate, and then going, bang, recut it, do this, and get that flywheel spinning. You need to build that content flywheel. And I definitely feel for a lot of retail businesses, so much low-hanging fruit and just store staff.
Yeah, and one great example is my business partner. We both know Janine Ellis. She has a business with her family called Yochi.
Oh, yeah.
So yogurt bars all around Australia. Bought it for a song in COVID and took it from 3 to like 20 or something already, and she just knows what she's doing in that space. But one of the biggest drivers for traffic for their Yochi stores is TikTok.
Yeah.
And what she's done is she set up this thing with the young people saying, hey, we're going to pay you if you create content in store, we're going to reward you for it. And if you get X amount of views or whatever the KPI is.
Yeah.
Next minute, they found their superstar social media coordinator.
Yeah.
Just gone absolutely bonk. And it's the biggest feedback of how people find Yochi all around Australia. It's from these young people.
Yeah.
But incentivize them. You've got to have a Young Guns program or something. You've got to have intention to set it up.
Exactly. And that's a perfect way, is just pay for on views. And, you know, that is, it sounds simple, but there still is the execution behind it. But yeah, when done right like that, it is, when you're looking at the reach you're getting off that too, it's just such no-brainer dollars for outcome now that we'll always look back. This is just like the golden era of Facebook ads, where any of us that were big spenders, you know, through that whole 2014 right through to, you know, we always go, oh, remember the good old days. Remember how cheap it was. Remember it was like, you know, 0.001 cents a click. You couldn't even comprehend it. And we all wish we were spending 10 times as much. And that is now for personal brands, where I sort of feel so many will be like, oh my God, remember you could just throw something on TikTok and it wasn't even any good and still get freaking 5,000 views when we're probably going to be spending like, who knows how many hundreds of dollars for those 5,000 views.
People just forget how expensive you usually would pay traditional marketing to get eyeballs.
Yeah.
And oh my God, like I had a client who was like, hey Matt, is this a good deal? The Married at First Sight's on. I've got an opportunity to be in prime time. Guess how much? Did you tell me?
Oh, I don't know. 50 grand.
No, way more. 300.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean, what's your response to that? I mean,
it's just mind blowing, right? Like how you could, because what you could do, spending that now, like this is the other thing. Yes, spending on ads, but you're spending more of that share. If you spend 100 on creative and 200 on execution, the reach is just going to be 1,000x what you're going to get.
It's just a different world back then, man. Like, I mean, 20 years ago when there was only 5 channels, it makes total sense because it was simple. It's like we got 4 million people watching a show at one time. Yeah, but now you can't just... See, that's the thing. Traditional marketers are slow to changing their rates because they've got to keep their payroll up as well.
Exactly. And I suppose that's even too with the marketing. I know where I'm saying a bit of stuff, like a lot of these traditional marketing agencies, even in the social part with Facebook's AI and the automation, Advantage Plus, you run 2 campaigns, creative testing, and then your Advantage Plus AI. It is so much simpler now. And the work, I used to have 5 media buyers at Culture Kings, and it was a huge chopping up all the data. That's all gone. You could do that in half an hour a week now. There's these big leap forwards in tech, and it's slower for people to react because they sort of want to keep the music playing, right? You're charging the client 15 grand a month. Are you going to tell them, oh yeah, it used to take us 25 hours a week and now it only takes us half an hour, but we're still charging you 15 grand. That's where
it's playing on ignorance and the old days of this is how it is, that has always been. And that brings me to, because off camera we're talking about how this is what usually happens at the moment. And there's, in marketing, you have people who are very niched in one area. So email marketing, just all that. And they could be, like you were saying, 8 out of 10 there.
Yeah.
But that's like saying, I've got an 8 out of 10 bicep.
Yeah.
But the rest, I don't know legs, I don't do chest, but I'm really good with biceps. But like, there's a danger to that, right?
I feel what's happened is that, especially take e-commerce, for example, is that we would get super micro niched into people going really good at one segment and doing one segment really well, but so much automation and streamlining has happened. That's nowhere near the task it was before. And rather than being, you're either got to, if you're the Jedi expert at email now, well, you should be doing it across 50 brands, because once you build the flows and you know all the parts, it's done. And then you just need to train them of how to change out the images, Canva. It's very quick, 10 minutes sort of here and there. Where I remember back in the day, Culture Kings, we'd have 5 graphic designers going through doing all email to the part where it's just completely changed of how much more streamlined you can run that now. And this is where if you run a more tighter, leaner team, you're not having those value gaps happen because of the communication difference. And as much of those team members can be together, or the one person doing it, which is so common now. This is why my big theory is like so many of these e-com business, they can get to 50 million with like 5-6 staff. They don't need these massive teams as before. You outsource your contractors, you pay per result, and then so much of it, once it's set up, it's sort of done. You just need to check it and be across it a lot less frequently.
Because it used to be like, let's hire in-house and have our in-house team.
Yeah.
But now you're saying, it's much more smarter now because all the things are catching up, pay on result, just contract out.
Yeah, and pay for the expert to either set it up right, understand it, how it's done, and then just have an audit and a check. But it is so much like for example, email. And when you get it dialed, it's still not, you've still got to do work every week, but it's not much. It's half an hour. And if that one person that's in charge of marketing, that's also driving the ads, that's also driving the campaign and brand, is so much more across everything, they're going to make so much better decisions than one person siloed. That's, oh, my job is just, email.
That's a really good thing you just remind me of. Sometimes I feel like the market or people don't quite understand what they're expected to do in their role.
Yeah.
This is a role description, what you're talking about. What do you think a marketing director or head of marketing should be doing?
Definitely now they can have a lot more holistic view of the whole business. And, for me, this is where some of them are where I feel, say, over-indexed on a skill set, but now's got so automated. Say it's like media buying where, okay, that skill is great, but it's got 90% simpler in the last year. But you need to also understand brand. You need to really understand the creative, because the creative is so important. You need to understand how your email flows and all this tie together and how that's all pictured. And so many brands where they needed all these people before, that can just form into one role now. And especially, and I always said this too, is like, take for example, merchandise and marketing. I would have a great person in merchandise. And this is a very common problem that happens, retailers will understand this, is that merchandise and marketing can blame each other. This vortex can open. Merch blame marketing. Oh, you didn't market it properly. Marketing will blame merch. Oh, it's shit product, and it falls in the middle. And I always, up to 50 million, I was doing the ads all myself and doing all the buying all myself. It was the left and the right hand speaking together. And because I could make the right, I knew I backed the truck up on this hat. I had to get the ads to work to be able to sell it. I couldn't say, product shit.
Yeah.
It was so congruent in the way it was coming together. But now, this is what I'm saying, for these people in merch, I'm like, you're a 8 out of 10 at merch and you're a 2 out of 10 in marketing. If you got to a 5 out of 10 in marketing, your skill set will be so much more valuable than if you got to a 9 out of 10 in merch.
Yeah.
Because you're so much more well-rounded to understand. And I even think structuring, how you structure these retail companies going forward, like combining these departments, not creating these vortex. So many can come together, and it's, especially when it's streamlined and it's so much faster, you can teach this skill set to be across the media buying. That's where in my thing is I'm like teaching the founders and CEOs to be across the media buying 10 minutes a day, because then they've got the customer and the creative that's working top of mind. It just helps so much in the rest of that decision making when you know what the customer's clicking on, what they're watching, what's the view rate, what's the hook rate, what's the whole rate, what is the highest ROAS, how much that's working to the daily profitability, and how the whole system is running. Having 10 minutes on that every day. I did this my entire career, even in doing hundreds of millions of dollars, and sometimes I had 100 people on Zoom for this 10 minutes explaining the ad account, because it was so valuable. It was like our insight to the customer. And that's what I believe a lot of, and that's why I started this retailtainment. We're implementing it with a few companies now and seeing them understand that ad account, have that customer top of mind, and driving that better decisions. They can just see it so much clearer. And for me, so many retail companies, there isn't many that are bootstrapped like us get up to 50 million EBITDA, right? Like that's the thing, is that it wasn't just turnover or, we were about profit. And that is something that has to be a North Star metric for so many of these retail ones, because I know in that COVID period, there's some crazy examples of valuing retail companies off revenue. It's just, people have to get that out of their heads. That will never happen again, because they're not tech companies. They're not like, every dollar can drop to the bottom line. You still need another warehouse. You still need, it's a retail company. It needs to come back to profitability.
Yeah, one of the things, back to with creative stuff, I really feel like it sounds weird to say this, but I think creative was undervalued for the last couple of years in so many ways, because we've got templates for everything. You got Canva, it's templating things, and you've got CapCut, you've got all these shortcuts. It's cool. It gives the general public a really good gauge on what is happening. But what I'm saying is this, right? When you're making good creative, and when you're putting when you're putting creative out to your audience, if your creative's no good, you can be confusing everybody. People are really, really impatient, obviously. So one of the things I'm thinking about is, don't confuse two processes as the same thing. Don't analyze and create at the same time. So when you're saying before, every 10 minutes, have a look at the ad account, blah, blah, blah.
Or once a day.
Once a day,
minutes.
right?
Yeah.
I say the same thing when I'm training founders with creative or with their personal brand.
Yeah.
It's like, what are your people reading in the headlines? How are you interpreting that as their leader? Is it something they need to be forced to think about? Is it something they shouldn't worry about? What do people watch? Like, analyze, then create. Don't watch a movie, don't listen to a song to analyze and to create and create at the same time. They're two different processes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's really important.
That does make sense. I definitely could implement that more. But that is where so much of that value I know is creating. I suppose a big part too, that influenced me to start a personal brand, Alex Amosi, when I watched him, I was like, oh my God, like, he's an actual business person. He's not like this guru thing. And I felt straight away of like, it's so good, it's so valuable. And it made so much sense. I saw what he was doing, for private equity. I was like, as I went through the deal, I love the private equity space. I was like, this would be so fun buying companies and scaling them. And it's the model, but as well, All In podcast, those guys, the billionaire guys, where they were talking of their content and their anticipation, super in the tech and venture capital space, but, all these little changes of politics or interest rates and everything and their interpretation to the market, it was crazy when you trace back their predictions and how accurate they were in that space. And I really got so much value out of those. And that's why, again, that was what they were doing. They analysed what the news, but then gave their take on it. It was just, it's become a religious part of watching that on the weekends. I look forward to it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. One last thing. If the audience were to go, yeah, I'm going to try and do some founder ads, I'm going to attempt to do this, what have you seen across being in all the ad accounts that seem to be doing the best?
You got to break it down to what is the first principles of why did you start the company? What's the problem you're solving? What are you trying to create? Because normally underneath it, you can get to that passion. It's like, I knew I had this problem and that's why I created it. This is why I made this hat. Why did you think it's cool? Why did you buy it? What was those emotions that you were feeling, and how do you unpack that and get that into the ad and take them on that journey? That's what I sort of see as really powerful. And as much as you can, I was talking with the furniture one, but how you styled this. Don't just put the photo. You can put the amazing photo of how cool it looks styling, but what's better is take them on the journey of styling this room. Why did you put that there? Why did you do it? How did these colors play together? And take them on that with the emotion and the joy, and then tie that with the music and the drop, and then bang, showing the photo of it completed at the end. That's what's super engaging content.
I agree. I think it takes, if you're a content creator, it's worth getting into the business of storytelling and understanding the structures of what keeps our attention for the last 10,000 years. The stories are like the making sense device for everyone, right? And one of the things that story does really well in a movie, you have the external world and the internal world. The external world is what I can see as Simon from what he shows me. The internal world is all the thoughts he feels and all the feelings he feels. So you've got to show those perspectives in your story. So it might look like you got 600 million valuation real easily, but you going, mate, I was up every night, I was in the ad accounts, it was in such intensity.
Yeah.
That's showing those internal perspectives and creates believability and interest of a character overcoming something. I think that's a big thing missing in a lot of creatives. You've got to do a lot of work on gathering stories, then crafting stories, and being able to ask your team or yourself, how does my audience want this to be told? Is it through video? Can this be told in 30 seconds or 15 seconds? The masters of story can do it.
Yeah.
I was watching Spider-Man, right? I love cartoons. And no matter what episode, there's always a 5-second line of Spidey going, I was bitten by a radioactive spider and my Uncle Ben died and blah, blah, blah. He does a little recap of why he's actually fighting crime.
Yes.
I think that's brilliant. That's such a really good little tip of you just don't know who's watching you, and when they're watching you at a certain time, it gives purpose to what you're doing.
Yeah. I do think that's definitely how you tie those recaps in. I've been definitely hearing that a lot, and it makes sense of all the TV shows of why they'd always start with the recap of the series and how it's so important to create that right frame. And especially as you're growing and you have new followers, if they don't know that context or the background and I think you're right, as short as you can bring it into as much words into as little words as possible, but consistent, can just make a huge difference. Yeah,
I'm looking forward to seeing the mini series that comes out of your stuff. I reckon Simon Beard brand has heaps of potential, in terms of going. You could look at before, like working with projects, case studies, showing how the work is done. So real estate agents, they bloody do a disservice of going, here's a for sale sign, sold, but it doesn't show necessarily the work that went into it, the conversations that happen. I know some of them are private, but if we just show results without showing any of the process of your involvement or the skill it took to be able to do it, most people go, well, the house sold itself. It's pretty easy.
Exactly, yeah.
And a lot of people are missing that. They're selling very through logic and not through emotion.
Yeah. It is that, always my favourite show ever was that Undercover Billionaire, and when they dropped on the street, you know, with $100 and they got to sort of build it back. And I love that. And I was always like, oh man, I would love to do that one day, or my version of trying that, because I love that grassroots, just rubbing two sticks together and getting a spark and that energy and emotion too, but as well to really inspire and teach those ones that I do believe. And it's, for me, I don't want to get, it's like why I'm still in the ad account, why I'm still on the tools. I don't want to pretend I'm too big to my boots. I always had this when I had the fire and I lost $10 million in a day and I was like, I'm completely screwed. I remember thinking, you know what, all the skills, all the knowledge all I've got, you could put me back out on the street, $50 in my wallet, I'll build this motherfucker back.
Yeah.
And it's that certainty of those skills and that there, and it's and to be able to go out and just rub two sticks and show you can create that spark and run with it. That's I do think for my brand too. I really want to. I don't want to. I'm sort of against anti-corporate. You know, I think it's you teach as well, but you need a common enemy. You know, what you're for and then what you're against. And I'm against that corporate bureaucracy or creating so many layers or people just, you know, which is creating these dinosaur companies that I always was the one fighting against. You know, I used to, when my initial thing, I used to call out Maya and David Jones, like for our staff. I'd take them there and go, look at this. You know, you could bowl a ball, you couldn't hit anyone. There's not one staff member I can sit here and just yell cooey, no one will even come and help you. I'm like, they just hang all this shit here and just hope someone's going to walk in and it's going to sell itself. It's like, we will never do this. Like when someone comes into Culture Kings, we're putting on a show. We're creating an emotion, a feeling. We're creating this excitement that they will remember it. They will feel that emotion of the brand. And every time they wear those clothes, those magic moments, that feeling is linked back to it. That will have that confidence and certainty because of what we create. And it is crazy. I used to do this, 10 years ago and always call it out. And I remember like a year or so ago, David Jones sold for like 100 million. And it was like, can you believe we were able to build this Culture Kings to 600 million? And that David Jones with the 8,000 employees, I was telling Tony, I'm like, we should buy this. Surely that property, Burke Street alone's worth that, I don't know if the property probably wasn't included in it, but it was just, when you think about it, but that is the dinosaur thing. That's what I'd been fighting and screaming against. Like, this is not how you do retail. And because the department store, everything I come, the theatre of retail, came from Selfridges, which was the first department store. They invented the theatre of retail, right? Yeah. They were the whole ones of creating, going shopping as not this boring, like, going to buy food or something. It was an experience. It was like going to the theatre. And they just totally lost their way. Yeah. And that was something for me. I think that's so cool. And I think just lastly, again, like this, I'm sure this is, I promise this is the last thing, is do you know that show Survivor? Yeah. And they drop these, or Bear Grylls, and they drop in the wilderness. Yeah, and he's I'm a Navy trained SEAL. Yeah, yeah. And you're seeing this, you're just waiting to see, one, if he's going to live or not, or die, get bitten by a restless shark or something like that. But the reason why we like these guys is, one, it puts them into problems that they have to either have, that shows their skill. Yeah. It shows if they're really all talk or not. Yeah, yeah. So when you get the equivalent for the business owner is $50 in your pocket, go make it, mate. Yeah. If you're so smart and you've built something, you can do it again. And I reckon one of the future things that people can do for the personal brands is to either self-fund it, or you can partner with a broadcast or something, or pitch them something,
is do something, a mini series. Don't wait for someone to discover you.
Yeah.
Craft it out. Like for a month or two, you focus on, I'm gonna try and raise $100,000. I'm starting with $100 on this thing. I've got an ad account. I'm not using my personal brand. I'm going under incognito as John Doe.
Yeah.
So some of the best bands. So I used to be a session muser. So I used to play gigs with Jimmy Barnes and stuff, a couple tours. And I know in the scene, some of the best musos, they play a gig to an unknown crowd as an alias band name to see if the song does well into a cold crowd.
That is actually awesome. Yeah,
it's awesome.
A split test. Yeah,
split test. That's your split test for creatives. The best do it, and the best comedians do it. So I interviewed Dave Hughes a couple of weeks ago. He's like, he still does stand up.
Yeah.
To a little Surrey Hills bar that he's not advertising for tickets.
Yeah.
And he's trying new material out. So it's a common principle across all business.
Yeah.
In entertainment or not.
It is. You're right. It is entertaining, and I know it is the real sort of skill and the sharpening the saw that, for me, that's my growth part is I want to keep learning and growing and sharpening, especially at my point, it can be so easy to just fall to certainty and comfort. But you have to remember that's like, you have to fight against that. Us as humans are just drawn to that certainty and comfort. But anything that we value or enjoy in life comes on the other side of growth and contribution and is your higher and lower level self. So that's I think that's a great challenge for me to go back out in the markets with $50 and just get someone to film it and see how I go.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Thanks for your time, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks, mate.